So ever since structs were introduced to GameMaker about 3 years ago, people have been looking for a nice, easy, and convenient way to clone them or to duplicate a struct. And there have been a variety of solutions that people have used to do this, but none of them have been as simple as just using a built-in function to clone a struct. Probably the most popular one has just been to simply JSON stringify the struct and then immediately JSON parse the struct back into from a string into, GameMaker data. And that'll do the job, usually. It's about as good as you could hope for a single line of code. But in the April of 2023 GameMaker update, we now have access to a new function, and it is called variable clone. And variable clone does what you're probably expecting it to do, and this is simply going to clone a struct. So, let me back up a moment. So if I were to say var person is going to equal just, I guess this is like an NPC object or something like that. And then if I were to say other person is going to be equal to person, this is going to just set the reference of other person equal to the reference represented by the first one, right? And then if you were to like change one of the properties of one of these variables here, then it would change the property of the other because it's passed by reference. But if you wanted other person to be equal to a duplicate of the first person struct, then you could say variable clone, and this will create a new copy of the struct, and it's going to have all of its original data, as you would hope that a clone would have. But it's all going to be stored as a separate object in memory. And now if you were to say other person dot name is going to equal, I don't know, not Ryan. And if you were to show debug message, the value is stored inside each of these, and run the game, we would see in the console that we are going to have two different structs. And they're going to start off with the same values, and then if you change one of them in one struct, you'll see that it won't affect the value in the other one. And you can get fancier with this if you want to see the actual pointer in memory to one of these structs. You can use the pointer function. I'm not going to get too deep into this. I want this video to be over with quickly. Let's just end the game immediately so that we don't have to close the game window ourselves. So in the variable clone function, you might notice that there is a second optional argument that you can give it, and this is going to be the depth. And this is going to be a variable that controls how deep into any nested data structures you're going to copy. The default value is 128, which for pretty much anyone who's going to use GameMaker is going to be way more than you need. But if, for example, you wanted only a couple layers of a couple inner references inside a struct to be cloned, and then everything else to be copied by reference, then you could greatly reduce the copy depth. If you were to set it to 1, for example, you'll get a clone of the struct containing all the original values, but if you had any inner arrays or any inner structs or anything like that representing other things, then this friends array, for example, would not be cloned, and the reference would be copied instead. Most of the time, I'm going to guess that most of you are just going to use variable clone without the copy depth parameter. This will obviously not work if you have a recursive struct, so if you have a struct that stores a reference to itself. It won't crash or anything, but it will show a little warning that says recursive struct found, which I think is basically the same as if you were to do the same thing with the JSON stringify function. So there is a question of performance. And I was messing around with this earlier, and the difference between using variable clone and other hacky methods such as JSON parse, JSON stringify was, shall we say, noticeable, because parsing text tends to be slow, among other things. So let's use the old get timer trick. So I can say t start is going to be get timer. This is going to get the system time when this exact line of code is called. I can say, let's repeat, let's say 100,000 times, and I can say, let's say var clone is going to be variable clone, And we can print out cloning a struct 100,000 times the new way took this many milliseconds. And then I can just stack that up against doing it the old way, which would have been JSON parse, JSON stringify. And I'm going to say cloning a struct 100,000 times the JSON way is going to take this many milliseconds. I'm going to run this. Let's actually get rid of all that because I don't care about it anymore. We're going to most likely be waiting a couple seconds for this to actually execute. Actually, no. All right, so that was about 1 second. Cloning a struct 100,000 times the new way took about 100 milliseconds, and cloning a struct 100,000 times the JSON way took almost an entire second, so that was an order of magnitude difference almost. This will also scale better, I expect, because if you have a larger struct, the difference will become more pronounced. So if I were to, for example, have more information in here, may have gotten a little carried away. I've been trying to resist the urge to play Xenoblade Chronicles again from the beginning recently, as you can probably tell. So if I were to run this, this is going to take a little bit longer to execute, and we can see that cloning a struct 100,000 times the new way took about 470 milliseconds, and doing it the JSON way took about 2.7 seconds. So the difference actually did not diverge as much as I thought it would. I thought the ratio would diverge in the other direction. So that's interesting. Anyway, variable clone is much faster. It's a single line of code. It's a single function call. You don't have to do anything weird to make it work. So if you have ever wanted to have a nice, easy, and mostly trouble-free way to clone a struct in GameMaker, there you have it. So I'm going to end this off here. This has been a minor addition to GameMaker, but I'm sure to many of you it's going to be a welcome one. I feel like I don't want to spend too much time doing these short GameMaker update videos, but at the same time I've spent so much time staring at 3D collision code in the last 2 knows how long that, I'll be honest, this is my way of just like letting my brain decompress. Anyway, I usually try to post about 2 game dev videos a week, one tutorial like this, and one Let's Make a Game, currently a 3D wizard game in GameMaker. I hope you all find this useful, and I will see you all later. Special thanks to Zenjamin, VitroV, Squarecrow, Sindra Larson, Manta Ray, Harold Guidry, GameMaker, Edward Holt, DJ Gibbles, and Army Armbuster for supporting these videos. If you want to contribute to the channel, head on over to the Patreon page down in the video description to join the fun.